now is Simon Rosenberg, longtime Democratic strategist and author of Hopium Chronicles on Substack. Simon, I've been waiting 24 hours now, a full 24 hours now, to hear your much more analytically authoritative reaction to the Iowa caucuses than anything I could say. Please, go.
Well, listen, what we talk about when I come on, Lawrence, is that there's been this basic dynamic in our politics since Dobbs happened in the spring of 2022, where Democrats keep overperforming expectations and Republicans continue to struggle. You saw that play out in special elections throughout 2022. You saw it play out in the general election in the battleground states where we did so much better than anybody anticipated. We've seen it play out again throughout all of 2023. You know, we won the Virginia State House. We won the Wisconsin Supreme Court seat. We won in Ohio. We won in Colorado Springs and in Jacksonville. We kept overperforming and taking Republican things away from them because they continued to struggle to vote. Their voters weren't showing up. And that's what's happened now in early 2024. Again, we saw it in Iowa last night. And we also saw it tonight in Orlando in a special election, Republican seat where Democrats took away, in the land of Trump and DeSantis, we took away a House seat in Florida. In both cases, Republican turnout was, Republicans struggled. Republicans are struggling to turn out their voters. This has now been going on for 18 months. It's a big problem. We're going into 2024 with a lot of momentum. They're struggling and limping as they head into 2024.
And so, I mean, this is kind of the opposite of what we were seeing in 2016, where Donald Trump was kind of overperforming in the turnout models.
Yeah. Yeah, look, there was this idea of this hidden Trump vote, right? I mean, that was a big part of what we talked about in 2016, when really what happened in the general election is that Clinton was going to win, and then the FBI intervened, and her numbers cratered at the very end. There wasn't sort of a hidden special superpower that Donald Trump had. The election changed at the very end. What's happening now is that we have an awful lot of elections all across the country of every kind and shape and size, where the same thing just keeps happening, where Democrats keep overperforming and Republicans struggle. If you were Ronna Romney McDaniel and you looked at that turnout last night in Iowa, you're incredibly worried about where the Republican Party is. I mean, they spent huge amounts of money. This was an all or nothing fight for all the candidates there, and barely, you know, and they had a huge drop in turnout, as you pointed out, the lowest in 24 years. And what happened in Florida tonight was similar, right? This is the land of DeSantis and Trump. They have all the money in the world. Their candidate outspent our candidate 2-1 in this district, in a district that they held, and we still won tonight. So I just, as you and I have discussed, I mean, when I look at all this in every way possible, I would much rather be us than them as we head into 2024.
So, there's going to be a tremendous amount of attention given to Donald Trump as he, marches through the primary schedule, whereas Joe Biden on those nights won't be getting any attention at all. Is there an advantage in a primary, the kind of primaries that Trump has, where he's obviously going to win all or most of them very easily, than the candidate who doesn't have any primaries at all to win?
Well, maybe. I mean, Joe Biden gets to be president, and Donald Trump is responding to that by being a defendant in trial after trial after trial. I mean, I'm of the mind that what he did today in New York, for example, is hurting him. I mean, this idea that there's any benefit for him to look like a criminal or be in constant, crosshairs of the courts and prosecutors, it's disastrous. We have one guy being president of the United States trying to solve our problems, the other guy trying to spend all of his time staying out of jail. And I think that over time, as people start to pay attention, this is going to be a much bigger problem for him. And frankly, there were two other bits of data that we saw out of Iowa in the last couple of days that confirm this. One is that in your poll that was released on the NBC News poll released on Sunday, Haley voters, which were 20% of the electorate last night, were asked who they would vote for in the general election. And 43% said Biden and only 22% said Trump, right? Far more Haley voters said they would vote for Biden than Trump. And then we also heard last night in the entrance polls that over 30% of Republican voters who voted in Iowa, a very conservative state, would find it disqualifying if Trump were to be convicted of a felony. And so you're already seeing warning signs that people are aware of his troubles. They are unhappy with him. He's an historically ugly and unattractive candidate, and that he's struggling to bring Republicans along. That's the central reason why they continue to struggle in these elections, I think, is because the Republican Party is unattractive even to Republican voters. And people are just not fired up, and they're not showing up in election after election.
Simon Rosenberg, thank you very much for joining us again tonight.
Thanks so much, Lawrence.